favourite painting table, your miniatures and your paints, and don't forget your favourite chair. Make yourself comfortable. I'm going to read you a story tonight. Yeah, watch my mother and all that. The book I've chosen is The Jet Age. True Tales of the Air since 1945. You're not going to need to look at the screen because all you'll see is my ugly mug. There's going to be no fancy photographs or graphics. It's simply me telling you a story. So you can paint along and listen if you so choose. If you don't, you can click off and no problems. So this short story, the first one in the book, is called The Blind Pilot. The sudden scream, frantic and desperate, came slicing over the radio like a razor's edge. I'm blind, for Christ's sake, help me, I'm blind. Lieutenant Howard Thayer heard it, resounding in his headphones, and looked around for its source. At first he could see nothing except the smoke that billowed up from the marshalling yards near Wonsan in North Korea. Part of that smoke cloud had been created by the explosion of his own bombs, which he had released right on target just a couple of minutes earlier. It was the 18th of October 1950. 4 months earlier, on the 25th of June, Communist tanks and infantry had stormed across the 38th parallel, the tenuous dividing line between North and South Korea, achieving almost complete surprise and dislocating the lightly armed Republic of Korea forces which opposed them. Only rapid intervention by the United States Air Force combat squadrons operating from Japan and from forward airstrips in South Korea averted a complete disaster. On the 3rd of July, naval aircraft joined the battle, flying from the aircraft carriers HMS Triumph and the USS Valley Forge, and carrying out heavy airstrikes on communist airfields, supply lines and transport in and around Pyongyang, northwest of Seoul. For the next 2 months, these two carriers were to bear the brunt of offensive naval air operation. The Valley Forge's flying element, designated Air Group 5, comprised 2 squadrons, one equipped with the Grumman Panther jet fighters, the other with piston-engined Douglas Sky Raider attack aircraft. The Korean War provided both types with their first taste of combat, and they quickly proved their worth. The Sky Raider could carry up to 8,000 pounds of bombs and 12 air-to-ground rockets, and the Valley Forge's pilots soon established a reputation for delivering their formidable weapons with high accuracy. Howard Thayer was one of them. He had built up a considerable amount of experience in the 4 months since the start of the war, had learned exactly where to place his bombs for maximum effect, and most important of all, had developed a healthy respect for communist anti-aircraft fire. On this October morning, Thayer, together with 7 other Sky Raiders, had gone in fast and low, dropped his bombs and then got out of the target area just as quickly, climbing and turning to observe results. The target was an important one, for the marshalling yards formed part of a North Korean rail complex that served the port of Wonsan on the east coast, where a strong United Nations force was scheduled to make an amphibious landing in support of Allied divisions advancing towards the Yalu River. The North Koreans were now in retreat everywhere, but the UN pilots who continued to hammer them day after day, life was no picnic, for major North Korean targets were stiff with flak. This was certainly plenty of it today, forming a carpet of black shell bursts between target and an unbroken cloud layer, several thousand feet higher up. Thayer was relieved to see that the last flight of Sky Raiders climbing hard out of the inferno. It seemed they had all made it safely. It was at that moment he heard the cry for help over the RT. Scanning the sky, he picked out the other Sky Raiders one by one and saw nothing out of the ordinary, no telltale signs of fire or smoke that would indicate damage. Suddenly he paused, giving one of the Sky Raiders a second, longer scrutiny. The aircraft was in a steep climb, heading straight towards the overcast. They sensed immediately that something was wrong. The pilots had orders to remain beneath cloud base for the flight back to the carrier. He pressed his RT transmit button. "Plane in trouble, rock your wings," he called. "I say again, plane in trouble, rock your wings." Up above, Ensign Ken Schefter faintly heard Thayer's urgent call. He was dazed and numb with shock. His last clear memory was of diving towards the target with the altimeter unwinding through 1,200 feet, and then his whole world disintegrated as an anti-aircraft shell exploded just above the cockpit. The concussion knocked him senseless, but instinctively he had pulled back on the stick, bringing the Skyraider out of its dive. When Schechter came to, his first reaction was one of relief to find himself still alive. Then the relief gave way to literally to blind panic when he realised he could no longer see. It was as though he was staring at a vivid red wall inches in front of his eyes. Something was pounding at the back of his neck, sending fearful shocks up into his skull. Automatically he had called for help and heard Thayer's response. Weakly he moved the control column from side to side, dipping the Skyraider's rings. Thayer saw the faint movement and knew that he had no time to lose. In just a few more moments the other aircraft would be lost in the cloud. "Push your nose down," he called urgently. "This is Thayer. Push your nose over, fast." The words registered on Schechter's battered mind. Thayer was something about the name, then he remembered. Howard Thayer was his cabin mate back on the Valley Forge. How the hell, he asked himself, could he have forgotten that? Suddenly Ken Schechter knew that he had been close, perilously close, to giving up the battle. The shock he had received, the trauma of hurtling through the sky at 200 miles per hour in an aircraft he could no longer see to fly, had been almost too much for him. Rousing himself with difficulty, he pushed the stick forward and sensed the Skyraider nose out of its climb. He knew, however, that he couldn't go on flying by the seat of his pants, that he had to disregard the sensations transmitted to his body through the vibrating shell-tone cockpit. From now on, it would be up to Thayer. His friend would have to be his eyes. Thayer was now flying alongside Schechter's Skyraider, holding a position about 100 feet off its starboard wingtip. He looked across and felt his stomach turn in horror. Schechter's cockpit canopy had gone completely blasted away by the shell. The fuselage was pockmarked with jagged splinter holes. And worse than that, the Skyraider's midnight blue paintwork around the cockpit was crimson with the pilot's blood. Schechter's face was a crimson mask from which the blood flowed in rivulets, whipped away in the slipstream to dry in dark, ominous patches on the rear fuselage. Thayer saw Schechter suddenly reach up, groping at the top of the windshield, and wondered what he was doing. In fact, Schechter was trying to open the canopy to obtain more air, not realising that the canopy had already been blasted away and that it had more air than he could handle. He took the canopy release several times before he realised what had happened, and that the e-battery noise that penetrated the cockpit was the roar of the aircraft's big radio engine. If only he could see. All at once he remembered his canteen, attached to a clip at the side of the cockpit. He located it, pulled it free, wedged it between his knees while he fumbled with the top. He managed to get it off, raised the canteen above his head, tipping it, allowing the water to pour down his face. For a brief, blissful fraction of a second, the red mist parted and a section of the instrument panel swam into view. Then the redness closed in once more, blotting out everything. Somehow it no longer mattered so much. There was hope. Now that he would not be blind for the rest of his life, if only he could get down in one piece. Thayer's voice came over the radio again. "Ken, you've still got to drop your bombs. Drop your bombs right away." Schechter felt and found the bomb release, and the missiles fell away from under his wings, curving down to explode on the barren North Korean landscape. The two Skyraiders were now flying southwards, and Thayer was doing some hard thinking. His friend's life depended on the decisions he made during the next few minutes. He knew he could probably steer Schechter over friendly territory, but the rate the injured pilot was losing blood, it could only be a question of time before he passed out, and then no one could help him. The best idea, he decided, was to head for Wonsan. There were plenty of Allied warships not far offshore, and if Schechter could bail out close to them, he would almost certainly be picked up safely. Thayer told the other pilot where they were heading, but made no mention of bailing out. Schechter, meanwhile, was still trying to bathe his face. The wounded pilot was now for the first time becoming aware of pain, a stinging sensation along his right cheek. Raising an exploratory hand, he found that a shell fragment had torn his face from nose to cheekbone, causing a large flap of skin to hang down. Nausea welled through him, and he almost blacked out. More pain came in wicked white-hot flashes that stabbed through his body from groin to throat. He coughed up blood and wanted to be sick. His face felt like a stiffened, aching mask, and when he radioed Thayer, he found it almost impossible to speak. "Get me down, Howie," he pleaded. "Get me down." The voice in Thayer's headphones sounded faint and distant, distorted by the blast of air that was roaring into Schechter's cockpit. Thayer, desperately alarmed and sensing what his friend must be going through, strove to keep his own voice calm. "Roger, Kim. We're coming up to Wonsan now. Stand by to bail out." The order brought an instant response from Schechter. "Negative!" he cried, his voice suddenly stronger, as though the idea of jumping blindly and plunging into the cold, turbulent sea had given him new strength to fight on. "Negative! I'm not going to jump. Just get me down." They had to think really fast now. Scanning the horizon, he picked out the dark shapes of a pair of cruisers lying a couple of miles offshore, their hulls shrouded in smoke as they hurled their heavy shells at some unseen communist positions inland. Thayer could see the flash and smoke of the shell bursts and knew that the Sky Raiders were approaching the front line. There was still hope, slender though it might be. About 30 miles south of the line, he remembered there was a recently established, advanced United Nations airstrip codenamed Geronimo. Checking his present position, he quickly worked out a course to steer. 30 miles wasn't too far, if only Schechter had the strength to hold on. Just for a few more minutes, and then the pair might pull off a miracle. He called up his friend and told him what he intended to do. There was no answer. Alarmed, he radioed again urgently. Ken, this is Thayer. I say again, we'll head for Geronimo. Do you read me?" The response came at last, very faintly. "Roger, get me down. I guess I can't hold on much longer." "It's okay, buddy. You'll make it. Hold on now. Turn right. Easy does it. That's nice. We're coming round to 220 for Geronimo. That's it. Hold her there." Thayer watched Schechter's Sky Raider waver into a right turn and roll out into an unsteady level flight once more, roughly in the right direction. At least Schechter was still responding, which was an encouraging sign. The wounded pilot must still have some reserves of strength left. Then Thayer glanced over at Schechter's cockpit and knew at once that the thread of hope was slimmer than he imagined. He saw Schechter's head fall forward, then rise again, only to lower lifelessly on the pilot's shoulder. He realised Schechter was starting to black out, and they would never reach Geronimo. They had to get down quickly on the first reasonably level patch of ground they sighted. Thayer looked down. The Sky Raiders were flying over an expanse of sodden paddy fields, hardly an ideal area for a forced landing. Then peering ahead, he saw what appeared to be a firmer area with one or two buildings dotted nearby. It would have to do. "Kenny," called, "we're going down, right now. Drop your nose and wing a little." Incredibly, Schechter responded, and the Sky Raider began a slow descent, turning gradually to starboard. As the patch of open ground drew closer, Thayer could hardly believe their good fortune. It was an old airstrip with a single makeshift runway. During the northward advance of the United Nations forces, it had been used by light observation aircraft. And if Thayer's memory served him correctly, it could still be used for emergency landings. They were approaching the strip from the east. Just another few degrees and they would be nicely in line with the runway. Thayer told Schechter to maintain the gentle right turn, ordering him to level out a few moments later when the direction indicator in Thayer's cockpit showed a heading of 270 degrees. Schechter obeyed almost instantly, and Thayer marvelled at his friend's superb sense of control. Although slowly bleeding to death and only partially conscious, he was flying the Sky Raider instinctively, bringing the aircraft towards the strip, an approach that was little short of perfect. "We're approaching an emergency field, Ken," Thayer informed him. "You're looking good. Nose down just a little more. That's it. Left wing down a little. Just a little. Hold her there." Thayer looked ahead at the runway. It seemed ridiculously small. Schechter would need to lower full flap in order to land safely. "Stand by to lower your gear," Thayer ordered. The reply was immediate. "To hell with that." Thayer knew instantly that Schechter was right. It would be far, far safer to take the Sky Raider in on its belly than try a normal wheels-down landing. In Schechter's blind state, one serious bounce would be enough to turn the Sky Raider over on its back, and if that happened, it would probably burst into flames. Thayer took a deep breath. Every word now counted, and every command would have to be obeyed instantly by the other pilot. There would be no time even for Schechter to acknowledge separate orders. "We're heading straight," Thayer said. 100 yards to runway. You're 50 feet off the ground. Pull back a little. Easy. Easy. That's good. You're level. You're okay. You're okay. 30 feet off the ground. You're okay. You're okay. Over the runway. 20 feet. Kill it a little. Kill it a little. You're setting down. You're setting down now. Okay. Okay. Cut." In his shattered cockpit, Schechter switched off the engine and sat there for what seemed an age, his hands clasping the control column. Then with a sudden jolt, the Sky Raider hit the ground. The shock wasn't half so bad as the pilot had expected. The aircraft slid along the strip, trailing a cloud of dust and gravel, and slewed to a stop. Circling overhead, Thayer saw Schechter struggle out of the cockpit and lean against the ripped fuselage, his face in his hands. A car came racing along the strip and two men got out, running to the wounded pilot. They half carried him to the vehicle, which moved off towards one of the ramshackle buildings on the edge of the field. Only then did Thayer set course for a Valley Forge. He landed on the carrier's broad deck 20 minutes later to a hero's welcome. As he climbed from the cockpit, feeling for the first time the exhaustion from his efforts to save Schechter, he was surrounded by a group of senior officers, all of them eager to shake his hand. They told him that the radio in air operations had picked up the transmissions between the two pilots, and the whole ship knew about the drama. Moreover, someone had had the foresight to switch on the transcription machine in the operations room, and the tense jargon that had passed between Schechter and Thayer was on tape. Desperately tired, through nervous tension though he was, Thayer refused to rest until he learned what had happened to his friend. It was some time before the news arrived that Schechter had been transferred by helicopter from the emergency strip to Geronimo, where army doctors patched him up, temporarily removed a considerable number of shell splinters from his face, neck and scalp, and gave him a dose of morphine to relieve the intense pain that now racked him. From Geronimo, Schechter was flown south to Busan, where he was rushed aboard a hospital ship in Busan Harbour. Their surgeons operated on him for several hours, removing needle-sharp slivers of metal which had pierced both eyes. For Schechter, it was a long start to long months in hospital, first in Japan, then in the United States. Gradually, his left eye improved with treatment until his vision was restored almost to its former level. But his right eye remained permanently damaged, barely capable of distinguishing between light and darkness. Medically discharged from the US Navy, he enrolled at Stanford University, California, and obtained a degree in June 1954, before embarking on a career in economics. Howard Fair went on to complete 2 tours of operations in Korea. He stayed in the Navy and reached the rank of commander. And that's their story, the blind pilot. I hope you enjoyed that. I thought I'd try doing some of these each time, just something to paint to, and somebody just reading you a story. If you enjoyed it, let me know, and if you'd like to hear another one, the next one in the book is Battle Over the Yalu. So we're still in North Korea, and I think we've got F-86 Sabres and MiG-15s in combat, so you might enjoy that. Hopefully you got a bit of painting done while you was listening to this, and I'll see you on the next one, so take care.